There's an agreement that certain parts of Kenya aren't ours. And we need to understand that as we live in Kenya today, there's some still agreements that happened during independence that we don't know about and we are not privy to. Then you realize, no, it's because it would expose the fact that these lands are not documented under our land laws, as we know the land laws to be. You should not hold 5,000, 50, 60, 70, even 100,000, and you don't pay tax.
So there are high chances the settlers who inherited those huge tracts of land, they don't pay tax?
No, they don't. I can tell you they don't. They don't. Because tax is attached to
the law.
It's attached to the law, the title deed, and all those things, and they do not have those things. It's important for the so-called settlers. It's not a favor to anyone if you decided to take up Kenya citizenship. That's not a favor. So now we are asking you to just be what the other Kenya citizens are. It's about equality. Olpejita Conservancy is the scene of one of the biggest myths in wildlife. That of this, the so-called last northern white rhino, Sudan. Those rhinos were trafficked to Kenya. And that species is not extinct. It still exists in South Sudan and northern DRC. But we've created this complete myth here. And people have earned millions of dollars from it.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of LNS. My name is Lynn Ngugi, and I know for sure majority of you are happy to see my guest back. I'm actually happy to see him back. I have to say I've learned a lot from him in Varia, even from our last conversation. You know, guys, I've not stopped talking about it, and I said that's the essence of this platform, for us to be able to have this thought-provoking conversation while learning and relearning. Now, if you go back to our platform, we had a conversation that should be almost 3 weeks ago. We spoke about settler colonialism, and a lot of you asked about Mordecai Ogada to come and define and be able to tell us what are we witnessing. And I remember taking a drive some time back, and as we were driving, we saw this piece of land that was just so empty, and what my partner said, you know, this is a crown land, and we were like, so what happens to it? I don't know, it remains there. So I was like, what's crown land? So we can actually have thousands of acres in this country that remains untouched. And I know the conversation on land and settlement is one that we must continue having, so as to understand where do we, like, where are we as a country. And as I said, I'm happy to have Mordecai here, who will be able to walk us through this conversation. But before we can be able to define a lot of things, I want to say thank you so much to you guys for being active participants of our work. Can't believe the year is coming to an end. We've had beautiful conversations together, and I thank you guys too for getting us to almost 1.2 million subscribers. I don't take that for granted. And of course, the team that gets to put this work together. You know what I say, you get to see me in front of the camera, but it takes my beautiful team to be able to put this work together. So shukran sana. And now, of course, without further ado, please allow me to let my guest introduce himself in case you missed him on our last episode. Hello.
Thank you, Lynn. It's great to be back here.
Karibu sana.
My name is Mordecai Ogada. I'm a wildlife biologist, conservation writer, and these days I'm a policy consultant on natural resources and wildlife conservation.
Yeah.
Yes.
How's it going?
It's going well, thanks. We've had a lot of rain, so the ecosystems are doing well, and we are happy.
You're happy?
Yes.
You love when you see things blossoming.
Yes. And there's a lot less tension around those who depend on grass and grazing and water, so everyone is in a good place now.
Yeah. Last time we were here, we had a conversation, you, myself, and Varia, and it's very beautiful to see the comments on that particular video and to see people awakening and also getting to understand our land. How does that make you feel when you witness this kind of awakening?
I think it's a wonderful thing, because we are educating people, people are learning. And the sort of eye-opening that's happening is something that our formal education system has so far completely failed to do. So people grow up and grow old and people even of my age who have no idea what's going on right here in Kenya. And there are people who live in Nanyuki and know nothing about what goes on in the wider Laikipia. So I think these sort of conversations are really good for our people, especially if we want to change things for the better, if we want to improve things and have a better future for the coming generation. So it's wonderful just to hear people talking about, especially conservation stuff. I've been very frustrated because majority of Kenyans think conservation is for tourism. It's for tourists, and it's Kenya Wildlife Service business. A farmer doesn't think his farming plays a role in conservation. A driver or a manufacturer doesn't think the role of his factory has anything to do with conservation. But it's about all of us. We all need air, we all need water, we all need food. So conservation is about all that. And it's great that we have forums like this are bringing every common person into that sphere and that conversation.
Yeah. And I must say, you know, I am a firm believer of when the student is ready, the master appears. And you know, I read somewhere, you are not a fan of telling people to subscribe to your YouTube channel. You love when people find out what you're up to and they check you out. And I have to say, I've been following your YouTube channel quite a while now. And also your conversations at Maisha Kazini with Dr. Wandia and Joya. And those are just thought-provoking conversations you're having there.
Yes, there are things we have to think about. Again, my YouTube channel sort of started as a way of me expressing thoughts that I find difficult to write. You know, that sometimes it's difficult to connect things in writing, but if you speak them out, it helps me as well to see the feedback from people. So that's been very helpful. That's why it's about so many different things, about politics, education, global issues, social issues, and nature itself. So it's a very satisfying sort of format, and social media is changing Africa more than anything, more than schools and aid and all these other narratives. Social media and conversations are what's changing our society.
Yeah, and I must say this scares the politicians, of course, because we're in the era of learning and relearning. So
many people and so many things depend upon ignorance. Ignorance is such an important currency in global politics, in injustice, in corruption, in oppression. Oppression is fed. It's a plant. It's watered by ignorance. Many oppressed people don't even know they're oppressed. But when people wake up, people sort of realize who they are, the value of what they have, and suddenly you realize, we are in a bad place and we need to change something. Or even if we are in a good place, we can do something to make it better.
All right.
Yeah.
And I love that you've mentioned ignorance and awakening, because that's the feeling I got on our conversation with Mike Harris. And as I said, guys, you might want to watch that video so you can tune in to this conversation. But we are going to generalize it. We don't want to personify it. But I got that same feeling because some people are like, Lynn, why would you ask him to give the land back, right? And others were, please, he should give the land back. And also understanding this is a third generation settler. He has nowhere else to go. This is the place he has called home for a long time, right? So hold that. Another thought is, we were just talking before we started this conversation about a movie that has been going round, Battle for Laikipia. I'm like, why would it be a battle in the first place? Why would you fight for what you know is rightfully yours? So I loved that our audience recommended you to come and walk us through this conversation of land. So number one, why is land such a sensitive topic? Number two, when we talk about settler colonialism, what are we talking about? And number three, why are we fighting for what is ours in the first place?
Yeah, those are very central questions, and it's about ownership. If I speak about land is really important, and not just to me and you, but in Africa, because we are not immigrants. In Africa, we are indigenous to this place. So if I ask you, Lynn, where do you come from? You can probably go and show me a particular spot.
Yes.
Or maybe you can, even if your grandfather had passed on years ago, you can even show me where he's buried. So land is an integral part of our identity. Even in Nyanza, Luos, we ask Ijakanyi, where do you come from? So you tell someone, I come from Kabondo, and which part of Kabondo? This particular place, you turn left there and you find that home there. So, for instance, if that land, that place in Kabondo where I come from, or where my grandfather and my late father are buried, was taken away from me, I have a crisis of identity. It's the ultimate form of violence, apart from the monetary value of the land. I'm not even talking about any value of farming or anything on it. It's that identity value. That's what makes land so important. The Mau Mau fighters who fought and bled and died those days, that's what they were fighting for. It wasn't about money, I don't think. It was about, my God, I'm nothing. And if you imagine back 1950s, land is still an important part of my identity, even today, in that we are living in Nairobi. Imagine the 1950s, some guy in the middle of Murang'a somewhere, and he's suddenly uprooted and told, get out of here. It's like you are dead but alive. So that's the key basis of the importance of land. Settler colonialism, it is a very powerful force in not just Kenya, but a lot of the world. But most people don't understand it correctly. Settler colonialism is not an event, or it's not something people did. It's a structure that people built. And this is very detailed. Those who are inclined to read more about it can look up works of a sociologist called Patrick Wolf. He was an Australian. He passed on a few years ago. But he talked about it. It creates a structure where his paper is called Settler Colonialism and Elimination of the Native. In some lands like Tasmania, the settlers actually killed the natives and eliminated them physically. Gone. In other places, they created structures, and this other places includes Kenya. We created structures where the settlers in colonial days, we had a sort of apartheid system. There were permits to be in Nairobi. You needed to have a permit to be in Nairobi, especially if you are Kikuyu, Embu, or Meru. And even people from Nyanza had permits to be in Nairobi, which had to show I'm working for so-and-so in Muthaiga or wherever, or for government. So they created an apartheid system. So they had the schools, they went to the hotels, they went to the places they lived, the hospitals they went to. I mean, even it still exists now. The Nairobi hospital was the whites' hospital, and across the road was Kenyatta, where the blacks went. So these apartheid structures are still there. It was the same hospital.
Okay.
Yeah. And even now, it is still, one is for the elite and one is for the common people.
Yes.
So we need to keep this during our conversation, that when we talk about whiteness, we have many black whites in Kenya.
True.
That's so when we talk about whiteness, it's not about the physical color or race. So it's the structure. So settler colonialism was created like that, and one of the things that created it, nobility in England, was based on land. Land, even in England today, is owned by the nobles. They have a feudal system operating within what they pretend to be a democracy today. So there are nobles who own a small minority who own a lot of land, and the nobility is based on land, the duke of wherever. This land belongs to the duke or the lord or lord so-and-so, and this kind of thing. And they transferred that to Kenya, and they created a nobility here with these crown grants of land. So if you look at the settlers in Kenya, they were the landed, those with the large grants. Then there were some who are civil servants, like the colonial officers. Those were DCs. They came here. Some were police, some were military. They worked here. When they retired, they went back. But the landed the ones who owned land, the nobles, remained. And that's why prior to Kenya's independence, the famous Lancaster House talks, those who went, by the Lancaster House talks, the colonialists chose the liberators. That's where it went wrong. Because they picked Lynn, so and so, Lancaster House. What were they discussing in Lancaster House? You will get land of Kajiado, and now you can decide who you will give in Kajiado. You are like now a duke. Now you can decide to create small dukes by giving them land and that kind of thing. And it's sort of fed on from that. But that created the structure which we still suffer in now, where so much of the land in this country is owned by elites. It's owned by the whites, both the black and white ones.
The elites.
Yes. Yeah, both the whites and the black whites. So much of the land is owned by, because it's still this status thing. It's still this status thing. Remember our now if you combine it with our black Africans' identity, attachment to land, now big land is both identity and power. Yes. And greatness. And it's a very powerful political and even monetary currency now. But if you look at certain areas of our country, and where land injustices occurred, one being the tea estates in Kericho. The Talai people were ejected from there, forcibly exiled to Gwasi. Many of them died. Some of them made their way back and now are still squatters by the roadside. But that's never been sorted out. And that, if you get in those tea estates, you know this is not ours. That's why even when BBC exposed scandals of sexual harassment and mistreatment of workers, nothing was done. They even had cameras showing this is the guy doing it. Those guys are still in office to this day, because that is sort of England.
In Kenya.
Opposite Kenya, yeah, that's what's happening. Come to Laikipia. We've heard of various violations of local rights, like by British army soldiers. There was I forget her name. There's this young lady who got killed in Nanyuki. None of these cases ever go anywhere, because there is an agreement somewhere. I'm not sure where it's domiciled, but there's an agreement that certain parts of Kenya aren't ours. And we need to understand that as we live in Kenya today, there's some still agreements that happened during independence that we don't know about, and we are not privy to. And the land regimes, those of your audience who may have had the experience of buying or selling land, there's that survey, stamp duty, land board, all that, stamp duty pay and all these kind of things. And then you get a title deed issued in your name, LR number, this and this, with your ID number. The crown lands or crown grants of land, like what you are discussing with Mike Harris, they were just demarcated, handwritten note given, a document given to him. He's different because he's still of that family who are given. But if you come to Laikipia and many other parts of the country, the people who own the land today are not the original grantees, may not even be of that family. So these lands have changed hands. But they changed hands not in the way we do things yet. They changed hands in money you paid and I give you that piece of paper.
Not a title deed.
No, not going through that lands of your new title deed issues. No, they don't have title deeds like what we have. They have that land grant document. You pay me the money and I give you the document with whoever's name was. It was written someone's name in 1925.
Yeah.
So I just hand over that to you. And when the 2013, the first first election under the new constitution, that's when I found out that. That's when I found this out, because then Laikipia County government called me. I was then director of Laikipia Wildlife Forum. Called me asking for a list of my members and which lands they own. And I didn't know who. And I thought, but surely you people have the records of the owners. You have the land registry there. I said, no, these are not registered lands under Kenya law. And that, you remember, there was a furor then when the then Laikipia County government wanted to impose land rates, some nominal amount, I think 10 shillings per acre or something. In fact, the land rate at the time was 3 shillings per acre. They had wanted to raise it, but then the landowners caused a huge furor. And we were wondering, many of these are lands owned by billionaires. What is this 3 shillings? But that's nothing. Then you realize, no, it's because it would expose the fact that these lands are not documented under our land laws, as we know the land laws to be. That's what would have been exposed. And shortly after that, that election, the government of then Governor Joshua Irungu, who is back in office now, they all summoned to a meeting in Oljogi, and obviously they were read the Riot Act, like this is how things are here. Yeah, this is how things are here, and that just went away. And there are many other things that happen in this country like that, but we are not privy to. And so we end up in this situation where we think there are many things are coincidences, but we don't join the dots. There is a reason why the British Army is based in Nanyuki. And in 2017, there was violent resource conflict, when there was a drought and there was a lot of invasion in these lands. Boris Johnson, who was then the foreign minister in the UK, he flew to Kenya. He landed in Lewa, not in Nairobi, without any Kenyan government official. He landed in Lewa in a British Army helicopter, surrounded by armed Royal Marines. And he said the British government will protect its interests.
In Kenya?
Yes. Yes. Nanyuki is in the middle of Kenya. That was not at Jomo Kenyatta Airport or Nairobi. It wasn't even in Nanyuki, it was in Lewa. And that's obviously sanctioned from, he was a senior minister in the British government. That's sanctioned from very high up. So there's a lot of, this structure is the problem. This structure is the problem. What was done in the past, the killings, the torture, and all that Mau Mau war, that was terrible. All those things were terrible things, and we need restitution for those things. But what still ails us to this day is that the structure which was created through that colonialism and war and everything is very much intact to this day. Even if you look at our main cash crops like tea, coffee, they're still traded through colonially structured tea auction, coffee auction, I don't know. It's not simple. The agricultural exports, including flowers, we create cartel. Mordecai cannot just grow flowers and export flowers. He goes through this cartel called Kenya Flower Council, and it's taken through to a flower auction controlled by another cartel in Europe and that kind of thing. So that in a way is what Kenya has failed to escape. And me personally, in my life, this came to me through the conservation sector. The conservation sector is a white space, not just in Kenya, but in Africa. It's a white space still in 2024. And if you look at the history of formation of national parks, there was a rush to form many national parks in so many African countries around the late 50s, 1960, when independent was Ilikuwa inanukia. Yeah. And after Harold Macmillan gave his speech, the Winds of Change speech, and in South Africa. So conservation has remained like that. The people who started national parks were mostly soldiers who had just retired from the Second World War, British soldiers. And that World War created, these are people with PTSD. You know, war is terrible. Britain did not want these people back. That's why they settled them in Kenya, Zimbabwe, and all these other parts of their colonies.
Wow.
Because these people would be a problem. So many of them came here, many of them came to Africa. Those who came to Africa became hunters. They would lead hunting safaris because they've been shooting people for the last 6 years. Yes. They need something to shoot. So if you can't shoot humans, occasionally they shoot humans, but there's wildlife, so you shoot the wildlife. You shoot the wildlife was dealing with their trauma. It's the only thing they knew. So then suddenly these people who are killers of wildlife suddenly became conservationists.
Oh.
Somehow they decided, oh, there's not enough. We need to create areas to protect this wildlife. But mainly it was to create white zones, because you can't go shooting wildlife when Mordecai is there herding goats. So
yes.
So conservation is a way to get indigenous people out of any given piece of land. And that's when these demobilized soldiers who knew zero about wildlife ecology suddenly became conservation heroes and authorities, creating parks, writing policies, creating wildlife department within government. That's why our KWS is sort of military. It's from that primitive origin. That's why today we have the Director General of Kenya Wildlife Service, Dr. Erastus Kanga, PhD in wetlands ecology, is wearing a uniform and dressed like a soldier. It's because the origins of our wildlife authorities lies in primitive military thinking, not in traditional relationships with our environment and wildlife. So this is what caused that myth you hear that hunting is good for conservation. You don't need any degree. You cannot conserve anything by killing it. No.
Yes.
Hunting is good for removal of black people from land. That is the importance of hunting. When you declare this a hunting area, Lynn cannot stay there.
You
cannot have children walking there. You have, for obvious safety reasons. Yeah, for obvious safety reasons. And then you have a white space. Then there will be people who will pay a lot of money to come and enjoy that white space, and then the business starts and it grows like that. So that's how we get into it, and it remained a white space. That's why in Kenya we've always assumed that when we talk about conservation, and those of us in conservation, it hits us in the face every day. However qualified a black conservationist is in Kenya, your opinion is always treated as subordinate to any white person at all. That's as simple as it is. And even when Kenya Wildlife Service was formed, we had, that was 1990, I think. We had many qualified black ecologists, but Moi picked Richard Leach. He did not have the qualifications to do it. But he got in with the military mindset, got whatever government instruments to form a paramilitary force and all that. And it's true, poaching was a problem at the time. And he fought a war against poachers. And I think he won that war against poachers. But now we are stuck in that mood. It's still the same KWS, formed by someone with high school level education to fight a war against poachers. Now there are real problems. Invasive species, you can't shoot them. You can't shoot Lantana Camara plants. You have to deal with that. Climate change, you can't shoot it. Drought, you can't shoot it. Floods, you can't shoot it. And these are the real problems. Zoonosis, sort of these animal diseases.
Yes.
You can't shoot them. So how are we going to address these problems? When we need to deal with issues of habitat, connectivity, policy issues, these things you can't deal with them using guns. But we are left with guns. So we have all these highly qualified ecologists walking around in paramilitary uniforms with that cane under the arm and the beret on his head. So this is the essence of the settler colonialism that we suffer in Kenya, and we, the indigenous Kenyans, have embraced that and we aspire to it. So
but are we really the indigenous Kenyans? Because he mentioned that in the places they came, we were also not the indigenous Kenyans of those spaces. We also found people who we toka.
No, you see, those are the myths that are created to justify, to cleanse our past. Kenya has a very dirty past. Our colonial past is very dirty, and it's for the soul of our nation. It's important that we come to terms with that. And some of these things, like if people try and cleanse those things, yet science, archaeology says that Kenya, actually northern Kenya, is the cradle of mankind. Yet people claim they came in 1920 and didn't find people. Or even others, conservationists, claim in 2024 that human beings are a threat to wildlife. Yet we've been here for maybe 1 million years in Kenya, not just in the world, in Kenya. And that's the problem. And I'm now speaking as a scientist. That's the problem we face, that science now has been used as a tool of settler colonialism or of oppression. Whatever prejudice thing you want to do, you will find a scientist to say, yes, I have done the studies, I've written a paper, and it's been published, and it says this is true. There's even scientists that say that like Dr. James Watson, who's one of those who discovered the structure of DNA. He's made several racist statements over the years. He's even said that blacks are intellectually inferior to whites.
Hey.
Yes. Science, I mean, we need to look at science the way we look at everything else. Scientists are also human beings. They have prejudices. Some are honest, some are dishonest, some are good, some are bad. Some lie. But science has become this tool that puts things above reproach. And I think that's one of the things why that has helped me, that I have my scientific background. So when I say things, no one can say the science says, I know that. I know that paper you're referring to. I've been in the field and done research and found that is not true. So I think settler colonialism, we need to look at it across the structure of our whole society and how we can deal with the problems. If I take an example of national parks, it might not be easy to find the people who are thrown out to create Aberdare Park or Mount Kenya Park or Savo Park. We might not be able to find them. So some of these, we'll keep them as symbols of the dirty history we have. I mean, even in Poland, in Europe, they keep Auschwitz concentration camp as a symbol of the Holocaust, and people visit it. Not that it's a good thing, but we can keep some of those. But some of these, like there's these lands owned by individuals. Again, it may be difficult to go back, more so because even our indigenous Kenyan elite have been beneficiaries of this system, have been beneficiaries of this settler colonialism system. So what we must do is we must regularize things. I mean, I don't know, impose land rates, get land registry, pay appropriate tax. Land rates are tax actually. Even me on my 3-acre piece of land, I pay that land rate, that's tax. You should not hold 5,000, 50, 60, 70, even 100,000, and you don't pay tax. You don't pay tax on it. And we must regularize things.
So there are high chances the settlers who inherited those huge tracts of land, they don't pay tax.
No, they don't. I can tell you they don't. They don't. Because tax is attached to
the law.
It's attached to the law, the title deed, and all those things, and they do not have those things. You're paying tax based on what? Me, I pay tax based on my 3 acres. It is calculated according to the size of my 3 and 3.5 acres. They can't be paying tax because the authorities who need that money don't even know who owns that land. Who are they paying? And this is what, when you see the aggression, like what you see in the Laikipia, the so-called fight for Laikipia, that's what they're fighting for. They're fighting for the structure. And that's the source of their insecurity. Not that Mordecai is going to one day take up arms and go and attack them. No, what they don't want is the structure created where now Mordecai is his equal before the law.
Because that can never be.
They've been too comfortable for too long. And that's the challenge. That's the challenge they face. Like, we've lived on this structure for so long. There are things that they almost get, they're almost above suspicion. I mean, I ride in matatus a lot of times, and back first days I settled in Nanyuki, I was chatting the matatu driver, and he said like, wazungu wote hapa Laikipia wako na magari, lakini sijaiona mtoto wa mzungu driving school. Wao utoa license wapi? You know, simple things like that.
Yeah.
These days you see some few of them, but those days I can tell you for sure. I'm talking like 15, 16 years ago. Kwani hao utoa license wapi? Because he was even a part-time driving instructor, that matatu driver. And he said, I've never seen them, but they all drive.
Well, they have their own private driving.
So little things like that. And you see, little compliance with things, not about giving Mordecai land. Just do the things that Mordecai does. Pay the taxes Mordecai pays. Take the responsibility Mordecai takes. Listen to Mordecai. Treat Mordecai as
you are equal.
As you are equal. Or if treat Mordecai's opinion on conservation as the opinion of someone qualified in that field. Simple as that. But this system is it's such privilege. It's such privilege. Down to things like 2018, a group of hoteliers went to the then Minister for Tourism and Wildlife, Najib Balala, and told him, we'd like to serve in our hotels, serve them game meat of these wild animals. And instead of just telling them, no, we can't do that, he actually formed a task force to go around the country. He wanted to do it. The task force was chaired by one Ben Okita. I know him. They went around and they said all these stories you hear. Oh, hunting is good for wildlife. Oh, this. You know, all the keep blacks out arguments. All there. It was chaired by a black, but driven by those white interests. And eventually, those of us who are against it made enough noise so that plan didn't happen. But the fact is, if a black person went into Balala's office and asked for permission, tunataka kula swara.
Wametoa wapi hiyo?
Mila yetu tunataka kula mbogo Christmas. You'd be arrested. No one will form a task force. But it's that feeling that the wildlife sector is not ours. It belongs to white people. So if they say they want to do it, that's okay. And as it goes on, even myths start being supported by government. Like recently, there was a big function in celebrating 20th anniversary of Olpejeta Conservancy. Even the president was there. Olpejeta Conservancy is the scene of one of the biggest myths in wildlife. That of this, the so-called last northern white rhino, Sudan. These particular animals were taken from South Sudan some years ago to a zoo in the Czech Republic, Drův Králové Zoo or something. So that zoo got into some financial difficulties, late 90s. So they decided we can't keep these rhinos. A bunch of these rhinos, we'll bring them back to Africa, Flora and Fauna International. We can, then instead of taking them to Sudan, where they were taken from, they brought them to Kenya. These are not even Kenyan animals. Brought them to Kenya. Then Olpejeta kept them and built this story around, these are the last 5, then one died. The last 4, the one dies. The last 3.
Why?
Meanwhile, raising funds for and this is wildlife trafficking. Those rhinos were trafficked to Kenya, and KWS gets in on it as well. And eventually when the last male, Sudan, died, when they actually decided that it's too sick, and they euthanized it, because the day the rhino died, the CEO of Olpejeta was announcing the death in the studio of BBC in London. This timing,
it doesn't make sense.
How did they? But it was euthanized after they harvested all the sperm from it and all that. It was euthanized, and then we had a very strange ceremony where government dignitaries, minister, governor, all these gathered there.
I remember feeling so sad.
Gathered for a funeral of a wild animal that was trafficked. And I remember I wrote a Facebook post. I said, thank God Sudan is at peace now. He's no longer being exploited by his human captors. But since then, they've been trying this in vitro fertilization, something, whatever, to save rhinos, making millions of dollars of it. But it was out of a hoax. And that species is not extinct. It still exists in South Sudan and northern DRC. Even if someone went today and opened the IUCN red list, northern white rhino is not listed as extinct. But we've created this complete myth here. And people have earned millions of dollars from it. And you look at it and wonder, how will we ever conserve our natural resources properly for our future generations if we can't even speak the truth about it? And this is the problem we face. And Laikipia, is a livestock production area. There's government designated livestock routes, because animals used to be driven by foot up to the railway station, like in Nanyuki, then put on a train to Nairobi, maybe taken to KMC or whatever. These large ranches have blocked the stock routes. These are government designated, were designated long time ago. They've blocked the stock routes. Even Olpejeta has blocked a stock route. Right now, the only route for livestock to get from the Laikipia plains, if they're going maybe for dry season grazing in Mount Kenya or whatever, is to pass through Nanyuki town, which is illegal even by municipal bylaws. But we don't want to address the issues. And even the violent conflict that happened in 2017, a lot of it was no one wanted to take land away from anybody. A lot of these were stock that could not needed to pass, but the stock routes are blocked. the stock routes are blocked. I mean, it's a continuous violence against pastoralism, both by landowners and by our regulations. There was an attempt around 2017, 2018, Laikipia County government wanted to basically ban pastoralism and create feedlots, as in a place you enclose the cattle and feed them with maize or whatever. And what would we gain from that? The whole world is moving now towards free range cattle, free range beef, free range chickens, all this kind of thing, for health purposes and environmental and animal welfare purposes. So it was illogical to try and create feedlots, except until you understand that the objective was to oppress the pastoralist. These are all the symptoms of how the settler colonialism plays out. And the sad truth of the situation we are in now in Kenya is that our elites, political, economic elites, are beneficiaries of that system put in place by the colonialists. And they are reluctant, as a result, to change it. Because if we start looking at these people who own huge tracts, who did you buy it from? How much?
Where are the documents?
Where are the documents? Are you paying land rates? How much? None of them can answer that question. So that's why it's so hard for them to try and undo that system. But I think it's important for the so-called settlers to understand that it's about equality. It's not about doing a favor. It's not a favor to anyone that you decided to stay here. It's not a favor to anyone if you decided to take up Kenya citizenship. That's not a favor.
Wow.
It's just because you decided, and that is what was good for you, which is fine. So now we are asking you to just be what the other Kenya citizens are. That's all it is. Now be one of us. Just to do the things we do that are expected of us. And I think, but it's really hard to give up that privilege, and it's and nobility is something that is very hard for humans to give up. In fact, if you read history books where kingdoms fell, it was bad. Like people got killed, you know, like the French Revolution, they beheaded the king and all these things, and so many nobles. So, but in this day and age, we can't do that. But we must have this conversation, and they must discuss this. We must discuss why we run our KWS the way we do. Why is there always some wealthy white foreigner on the board of KWS? Why is that? I mean, there's no wealthy white foreigner on the board of Kenya Power. True. or Kenya Railways. But why KWS? It's that there's an ownership thing we don't understand here. We have not yet understood. And that's very secret. If you look at what's happening with our parks now, recently, Amboseli, in fact, those who know KWS, they know that the highest earning parks, those that basically support KWS, are Nakuru and Amboseli, and to a lesser extent also Nairobi. Amboseli now has been given to Kajiado County government. As far as I know, Kajiado County government does not have technical qualified sort of wildlife ecologists and all this kind of thing. So it's NGOs waiting. Oh, come, we'll help you.
Come, can we fund?
And you know, yes. And you know how our county governments are. You're offering money.
Come.
Karibu.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
The Narok, Masai Mara Reserve has been in the hands of Narok County government ever since, I think it's always been. Even after all those years, decades, I'm yet to find qualified technical wildlife ecologists in the previous Narok County Council and now Narok County government. They only have these rangers, law enforcement personnel. And that's why that park it's part of the colony. The prices now have been raised out of reach of Kenyans. It's to maintain the white space. They're even bringing rules in, like you can only go in with 4-wheel drive vehicle, green in color.
What?
So you with your red car and your
My elite
friends,
car.
yes, if you have a red car, that means only these two farms will be able to go in. And you know, psychologically, I've got a car that can go to Masai Mara. I can't hire a car.
Let me go.
Yeah, let me go. Let me take my kids there. So Masai Mara will become a place that now a kid will grow up in Narok and to be an old man and will never step in there. Laikipia has all this wildlife. I can tell you Laikipia County government does not have a single conservation wildlife technical person in the whole of the hundreds of staff. Same with Samburu. Same with Isiolo. So now, when KWS hands over one premium park, if you read the history of the other premium park is Nakuru. If you read the history of Nakuru National Park, that land was bought and paid for some time by WWF. So even hata hiyo sio yetu kamili. So we have this organization, and now even the parks that they still have, the entry fees, etc., have now been moved to e-citizen. So they can't have any authority to spend what they actually earn.
By the way, now you pay through e-citizen.
Yeah. So then KWS has to go and now beg government for money, beg NGOs for money, beg private donors for money. This is why that organization is dying. How much authority, what authority does it have? In northern Kenya, I can tell you, once you pass Nanyuki, up there it's NGO. That's NGO land. KWS has no voice out there. In fact, unless you are very familiar with Isiolo, you can't even know where KWS office is in Isiolo. It's hidden somewhere. Out there it's NRT. You go to Savo, you find there's Savo Trust, there's the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, there's the Big Life Foundation. Those guys are controlling there. KWS will remain in Langata. And those are the people to whom we have entrusted our natural heritage to hold in trust for our children. And they are becoming just askaris at the gate of a settler colony. And that is why you find so many illogical things, like when the southern bypass was being built, there was a huge opposition to it by the Friends of Nairobi National Park. And the huge opposition to it. And I thought, like, okay, the fact is that the jam on Langata Road is horrible, was really bad back then. So what's happened? How do you guys get to work? So many of these people who live in Karen had passes. They'd drive through the park to get to work. Pick a game drive. You are in the jam. Yes, kina Lynn weko kwa jam huko. It's like game drive. Pole, then you come out at the east gate. And I'm like, this is we've failed to understand what is ours and who we are as a nation. It's really sad. So we have to address the system, not just individuals. I mean, a lot of these individuals grew up within the system such that, I mean, you find someone's over 80 years old, 50, 60 year olds who are born and grew up in this structure, privileged structure. They cannot even fathom what life is outside that structure. It's like this kid born in Buckingham Palace. Then if you tell him now, you need to rent a house, you need to pay rent, you need to drive in this. It's like, how? How? Yeah, how do you, even basic things, very basic things become very difficult. He won't land. He doesn't even know. Does he even know where the land's office is? Why should he ever go there? In fact, if the land that now got registered is whatever he may have sold to other people now, those people had to register. But they can evil. This privilege and the privilege that was conferred onto the immediate post-independence leadership, we need to dismantle that, and then we can address everybody. Now let's talk as equals. Let's talk as equals. I mean, look at a very few people. We haven't even talked about Taita Taveta. Most of that county is owned by 3-4 people.
Taita Taveta?
Yeah. Yeah. If you think of the land that was owned by Critico's family and all those Sisal estates, they own most of it. And it's the same thing like Kipia. Like Kipia, there is that part that is this enclave, and they're very quick to co-opt government officials. When the present government came into office, I think the first week or something, the whole Ministry of Tourism, PS, KWS top management all went to visit NRT offices to sort of pay homage. It was actually very disturbing, because I know the PS, she's actually from Laikipia. And you are now you had a chance now to try and sort of correct some things. The first thing you do is go and pay homage.
Wow.
Go and pay homage. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Create these ruses to bring government people. Suddenly, Sudan has died. Minister needs to come. Governor needs to come. We bring them all in there. You remember Lewa Marathon? Have a marathon. Remember then the first lady was a keen marathoner.
Yeah.
Bring her.
We need her.
We need her. Suddenly someone decided, let's Olpejeta do 20th anniversary. Bring the president and the minister and everybody.
Was it even the 20th?
No. I was doing my research in Laikipia since 1999. Olpejeta was operating then. I don't know how they decided to make it 20th anniversary. No idea. It's at least 30. It was there long before I ever stepped in Laikipia. But create a ceremony, co-opt. The key is to co-opt government, top government people. And suddenly we can't touch you, because you have the phone number. You have the phone numbers of people who matter. And that's the source. If I wish people in our government would realize that some of them, they even visit these places innocently, but those visits are the source of the arrogance of these people. That's the source of the arrogance. The fact that you've gone there and they never fail to take photos and this kind of things and get it on the news. They have very strong PR departments. They get this stuff on the news and suddenly, you can't say anything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a whole cycle.
It is a cycle. And I think it's important, especially the natural resources, the land, our heritage. That's one thing we should never compromise on. We should never compromise on. And like I say, like the conservancy, the wildlife conservancy model, I've told people, and I never stop telling people, do not form a conservancy. Do not sign any agreement with any outsider to do anything. If it's your land, if you decide, I've got my land here, I want to sell it to Lynn, I want to sell it to anybody, fine, that's a business deal. But this agreement, now we are calling this place whatever conservancy and all that, no. And they play the long game. That's why it's so upsetting that people sign 30-year agreements. 30 years, a baby will be born under this agreement. She will grow up to be an adult woman and even have a baby of her own. 2 generations, subject to an agreement in which they had no say.
At all.
They had no say at all.
Should we then, there was this question, can we forgive and move on? Why are we living in the past? The past is the past. Things happened. People died in both sides. Can we just move on, please?
We need to know settler colonialism, to be addressed, you have to address its beginnings. The reason there was a war, it's because there were some interlopers who came here. If no one came, there would be no war.
True.
We wouldn't be talking about a war. So the first wrong that was done was the coming and invasion. That was the first wrong. And all those things that have happened. And the thing is, the wrongs on both sides, there's some selective study of history that happens all over the world today, where you find people came here and invaded, then the Mau Mau took up arms and attacked people, and suddenly we are now saying both sides did things wrong. It's the same like, and so no one, they're trying to remove the fact that some people are defending their birthright. Suddenly now, even if you look outside this country, look at Israel, we hear about Israel defending themselves, yet they're the ones who came. They're the ones who came. So if we might not be able to unravel all those things, but even if we decide to forgive, the only way of moving on from anything is correcting what can be corrected. There are things like, you have to register your land and start paying land rates. That's a low-hanging fruit. Why can't you do that? Why can't you do that? You blocked government-designated stock routes. Open them today. You can do that today.
Right now.
Right now. You can do that today. So even if some of the things they say, like, you cannot hold me responsible for maybe an atrocity committed by my grandfather. That's true. You can't. But there are things we can correct now. There are things we can correct now. You can register your land. You can pay land rates. You can open up that access for stock routes for people to get the animals to market or to pasture or whatever. And those things can be done today and now. But the fact that they're doubling up on everything, like, I was born here. I mean, if your father annexed someone's land, you cannot erase that by saying, I was born here. Fine, yeah, it's true, you were born here.
We brought pineapples and macadamias.
No, that cannot erase anything. And those things were not brought as favors. They were brought, you are making a living. Well, so you are farming. You are farming. You are doing your thing.
And free labor.
Farming, yeah. And now, actually, we got to a point. That's one thing I heard from that interview that I didn't know before, is that land would be taken, a huge chunk of land, and then they'd now offer people small pieces. You can live there, but you'll work for me. And it actually reminds me of something I hear in conservation a lot. They say we need to increase benefit sharing. How do you share benefits with the owner? How do you share benefits with the owner? And there are things we can do, but we are not doing them correctly. Because if you look at like the case of Amboseli we were discussing, we can decide today 40% of the revenue from Amboseli Park is to be given to Kajiado County government, or whatever percent. But you can't shift a piece of national heritage to become heritage governed by a small group of people who are very vulnerable to external coercion. And I can tell you, like, like, for example, Samburu County Assembly has completely been co-opted by NRT. County assemblies are very vulnerable. It's a small group of people. I mean, even in our national legislature, National Assembly, MPs get bought. You think MCAs are hard?
Yeah, yeah.
MCAs? How much? How much? And some of these, especially these areas of the country that are sparsely populated, there are very few wards. I think Isiolo has 10 wards, 11 wards. If you want to co-opt those MCAs, yeah, how much?
Done.
And we are talking about think of the interests, the people who are interested in these lands. Billionaire capitalists, carbon traders, hedge fund. If you want to, if the people buying carbon credits from Samburu include people like Meta. Imagine Facebook. That's Zuckerberg. I need some money to buy this county assembly. He'll ask you how much.
Only? Why are they so cheap?
No, how many can I get another county? That one is.
Let me move.
Give me 3.
On to the next.
Yeah, I can take 3 counties if that's what it costs. That's the sort of money. That's the sort of money we are facing, and that if the moment we start monetizing nature or land or natural resources, the only people who will own this country are the billionaires. The unborn kid will have nothing because he doesn't have dollars. And that's the thing. So these interests, to undo these wrongs, there are things we have to set things right as per the law now. Set things right. Let everyone be equal right now. And then we can see what can we correct of the things from the past. Because these are living memories. You are telling us things happened in the 1950s. The people who are there in the 1950s, some are still here. Some are still here with us. But it's a deep conversation because many of the grabbers are our own people. There are those who are our own, who own a lot and you cannot show where they bought it or from who. So we have to unravel the whole thing. You know, like when South Africa had that Truth and Reconciliation Commission thing. Yeah, they were not just the Afrikaners who were in trouble. There were some traitors who had to confess. I reported so and so and he got killed. I'm the one who handed over so and so. I'm the one who pointed the police to his house. The people would say like, yeah, when this guy grabbed land, he gave me 500 acres. I'm the beneficiaries of this because it took chiefs, it took home guards to protect settler colonialism. When independence came, they did Lancaster House and they picked a local elite to replace and protect them. And those their kids are still benefiting from this now, maybe 3 generations. Their grandchildren are still wealthy from those things that they were given. So those are questions we have to address as the soul of, to sort of regain the soul of this nation. Because what we saw during the Gen Z protests, there's a generation that they are just feeling cheated, and not feeling, they've been cheated. We've taken away the land, they've grown up poor, seeing peers who are growing up wealthy. We, the generation before them who have the knowledge, are lying to them.
Yeah.
And we are not addressing the problem. So it will play out in I think even in politics and even the behavior of the younger generation. But we have to address those things. We have to address those things. It's not good enough. You cannot address a structure by saying, I have helped so and so, I have dug some boreholes there, I have done this. Fine, you've done those things, but that does not address the structural problem that puts you in that place where you are.
Where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. That places you above other people simply because of who you are, not because of what you did. I mean, and it's a completely different world. I mean, even me, that the place where I live, I paid for that land. I have the receipts today. the house I live in, I bought the materials, it's, and I've got the loan documents to show what so I've made that home what it is. I didn't inherit anything of it. But we have to address, and there is nothing that I am today because I am so and so's son or because or I'm from such and such a place. Everything I do is because of what I'm qualified to do and this kind of thing. And I think we have to address that as a nation. We cannot have this thing of this country having its owners. This country has owners, sadly. And the tenants are getting uncomfortable. I think
they are seeing the truth.
Yeah, the tenants are getting uncomfortable. And Western corporations have found out that Kenya is a soft touch in Africa.
Wow.
Come here with your ideas and a few $1 million.
You're good to go.
You're good to go. You're good to go. That's why our entire Ministry of Natural Resources no longer talks about our environment. They only talk about carbon credits.
Climate change.
Climate change, carbon credits. Meanwhile, trees are being cut down in Nairobi, left, right, and center. Instead of giving us access to the green space in Uhuru Park and all that, they're talking about, instead of cleaning up Nairobi River, they're talking about climate
carbon
change.
Credits.
Yeah. And I said the worst thing is that we are talking about climate change, yet Mombasa, our second largest city, has no sewerage system. We discharge sewage into the Indian Ocean up to this day. And we are talking about climate change.
We are attending COP.
We are attending COP. we are the ones
representing
Africa.
Talking on behalf of Africa.
Yeah. Especially that we've started saying we in Africa. Africa is so big. But Kenya always come and say, we in Africa, we in Africa.
Yes.
This massive continent we are coming to say we in Africa.
There was that PR thread on Twitter that we Kenyans actually represented.
We negotiated.
Well. We were at the forefront of negotiating for.
Yeah, some journalists were saying we got $300 billion for Africa.
Yeah, not much, but it's a good start.
First of all, that money is never coming. Secondly, it's never coming. I can tell you. It's never coming. Secondly, the $300 billion pledge was for all so-called poor countries, including the Africa, Caribbean, Asia, even India is in that nonsense of so-called. How is India poor? India is not poor by any estimation. But it's also in that. So that $300 billion is for the whole global south.
Yes.
And they say we have negotiated for Africa.
And now they've started even having young children speaking about, I saw this young child, and I was like, she doesn't even understand what she's talking about. How did she get there?
No.
How the Greta...
Yeah, Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear about Greta now because...
No, you can't.
Greta grew up and realized...
I'm being used.
And especially the first time they saw her in some protest march wearing this kafia, this Palestinian scarf, they said,
we are done.
We are done with that. But especially the face of black African children, especially the girl child and black women, is now being used very heavily to push the white male conservation agenda. And that's why you're seeing they're going there. We are doing this kind of thing. We are talking about climate change. We are winning. We are getting youth, and when they even have the World Economic Forum, they get all these young black, probably a few young men, but mostly girls, and they get them there and they put them there and give them something. What are you telling us?
Is it for sympathy?
It's to hide. It's a mask. It's a mask, and it's a mask. Like even some of things like there's a lot of concern in the West about the fertility and health of African people. Yani, why are we so healthy? Why are we so fertile?
Man, vaccinate these ones.
Yes, vaccinate these ones. Control apply birth control and all that. So, and those are white male initiatives. They're like Bill Gates and those kind of people. So when you start such an initiative, get a black woman and put her as the CEO. When Mordecai comes with stones and anashindwa kurusha, anasema, I'm hitting my sister with stones. You know. You see, and it's...
You hate women.
Yes. In fact, they call you a misogynist and all these kind of things. And if you realize that when you talk about environment, you cannot bring money into the equation. Because let's look at those low-lying islands like the Maldives and all that, where the sea level is rising. Hata ukipewa pesa ngapi, will the money push back the ocean? It won't. You have to reduce emissions from Europe and the United States, etc., and China and the other polluters. So when you start talking about money, it's a lie. Someone's just telling you lies. When the temperature, global temperature goes up, when you have a drought, money can't bring rain.
No,
when you have a flood, money can't save you from drowning.
No matter how much.
No matter how much.
So it will go with the flood.
Yeah. In fact, those people who came back from COP29 shouting about victories, they should have been saying, we came and we convinced the US to reduce their emissions by
this percentage.
Yeah, or we convinced Toyota Motor Company to start making environmentally friendly factories. Something like that. That's a victory. That's a win.
We got access to this and that.
Yes. That's a win. That's a win. Now, you can say at you got money. What are you going to do with money? Napeleka wapi? And you know, let's just say the truth now. Let's say even 300 billion was sent to Kenya. Itaenda na katuka 10. Yeah. It will not help the guy suffering.
It won't get where it's supposed to.
In fact, sometimes I say, if they are giving money, wasilete pesa huko.
Wasilete huko.
Isikuje hapa.
Yeah, it's a lot of...
Hey! All the violence meted against pastoralists, against people who need to access to natural resources is because of money. Money is the reason why they have armed guards threatening and shooting pastoralists. It's because of money. It's not because of it. And it's the same. It's the same thing that right now we are trying to, the thing with the livestock, vaccination and all that. The objective is not environmental. The objective is to diminish livestock herds and diminish the resilience. So once people are poor, you can control them. When there's that pastoralist guy who has a herd of 5,000 goats, that guy doesn't need anything from anybody.
No.
If he needs some cash, sell 2 goats. And I've had students, gone out with students, like American students. We go up I take them always first to the livestock market. And ask them, let's ask prices of livestock. So we found out a goat is around $40. Sheep there is $40, whatever. Then I tell them, now let's go out. We even ask price of camels. Camel one is like 200K. Now we go out there. See a guy with 2,000 goats. I told you, just from the market, the goats have $40 each. Why do you think this guy is poor? Or comparing him and you, how much do you have in your account?
Wow. Why would you think they are poor?
Yeah, this guy has $20,000 right here, you can see. You, even the ticket you came with here is on credit card. It's on
credit card.
But you've come to lift him out of poverty. That's what you say. You've come to help him. Huh? What are you helping?
Remove the naivety.
Yeah, remove the naivety. Remove the naivety. So even as we want to do things like conservation, let's conserve because that heritage is part of us. Something like KWS should be fully funded by government, and it should conserve everything, including those small creatures that tourists don't see. They need to conserve all of them because that is our heritage.
Yeah.
But not because we want tourists. Because those same tourists, they're the ones who one day they say, we are very happy now, but we want to hunt.
Yeah.
Then now
we want to adopt an animal.
We want to hunt. We want to adopt. We want to, and there's look at the rise of these so-called rescue, sanctuary, and all these kind of things with all sorts of animals. It started with baby elephants. Now you go on their socials, you find a baby rhino, baby warthog, baby giraffe, baby this, baby. These people are going out into the bush and capturing baby animals. They're capturing baby animals, right? And they're displaying them, and we are paying to see them. That is called wildlife trafficking, in simple language. And we always hear the story. As an ecologist, I know if a baby animal is somehow separated from the mother out in the bush, it gets eaten by a lion or a hyena or another predator. And it also, that means the baby lions get to eat. So if we as conservationists start competing with the lions for food,
how is that helping?
Tunaenda kuinyakua before the hyena can get it. Doesn't the baby hyena have to eat? And we miss the basic wildlife management principles. Like you see the big problem that's been happening of these hyena attacks like in Juja, in Wetaidia. These are some of the worst waste management areas for Kiambu County government. Wetaidia, this illegal slaughter of donkeys especially, it's a notorious area for that, and they discard hooves, intestines, all those things there. Hyenas come and they end up attacking children. So, and in all that conversation, you saw KWS went to the traps. No one asked Kiambu County government, point to us where the rubbish bins are in Wetaidia.
Oh.
No one asked Kiambu County government. So we come with a trap, we trap one hyena and take it. We take it, I don't know, Sabuk, or we take it where, then another one comes. Hyenas forage very far. But this is basic ecology. It's basic ecology. But we've decided we want to do conservation politics and PR and optics instead of ecology.
Yes.
Yeah. Ask those people, where do you when you slaughter a chicken, where do you throw the head? When you slaughter a goat, where do you throw the skin? Why are hyenas coming here? Why are hyenas coming here? So these are human behavior things, and we just, if we change the way we think about our resources, we'll be in a better place in this country. Yeah, and that's all resources, be it wildlife, mining, minerals, land, forests, water, and all these things.
We have to change our mind.
Yeah. Otherwise, the settler colonialism mindset that if we want to conserve this forest, tafuta mtu wa kununua carbon credit instead of just plant trees. Bill Gates comes from America where they are polluting like crazy, and he comes and tells us our cows are emitting methane. And he's left nuclear power stations, factories, and all this back where he comes from. But that's settler colonialism. You know, we accept what he says because he's white and he's rich. That's the definition of settler colonialism. That's why when Bill Gates advises us on health, we say yes. He's not a doctor, but we say yes because he's rich and white. The one thing Bill Gates has never advised us about is computer software, and that one he knows.
Yes. Why not give us?
He has never come and said, I'm giving you free Microsoft Office to Kenyan schools. No, he only comes to bring contraceptives, vaccinations, new seeds.
New seeds.
Yeah, he comes to advise us on agriculture. Hakuna shamba. Settler colonialism.
Man.
Settler colonialism. It is inside our systems. I think the most harmful part of it is the part that is inside our systems and our state systems.
Hana shamba. Thank you.
Analima wapi?
Analima wapi?
Let him show us his maize.
But shukran. I feel like
welcome.
Every conversation is a step towards the right direction.
Yeah.
And I love that also people are reading a lot.
People are reading. That's nothing pleases me more than that. People are reading and they're realizing this information is there. It's out there. And I always tell people, when you hear me say something, Get online, verify. Is he lying? Is he telling? Is he cooking up a story? You will find them. You will find them. Get online, verify, question. And that's don't just, even me, don't just, oh, he's a scientist. So believe. No, go online and see those things and read your environment, see what's going on around you, and let's think more deeply about these things. But the picture of settler colonialism is so much broader and more complex than what that one guy did. But I'm glad the conversation started. And as I told you before, I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that Mike Harris agreed to talk to you, because settler colonialism also has a code of silence. It's very few. I don't know any who would agree to talk to you. The way you had that conversation. That was a step, I think, of courage on his part. And I'd commend him for it.
Yeah.
I'd commend him for it. Others just pretend that
they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know that it's not happening and all that. But even that Laikipia documentary, let people watch it
and see,
find out what's going on. Find out what's going on, because some of these things have been hidden from us for too long. And as I said, I'm surprised that movie saw the light of day.
Yes.
Yeah, because it talks about the stuff people don't want to talk about. Yeah.
This is the beginning.
Yeah.
Of great
conversations. Yes, this is the beginning of education, the waking up of our society.
Yes. Yeah. I'm happy to see the big conservation lies back in Nuria.
Yeah.
So it's still available there?
Available in Nuria.
Good.
Yeah.
And Amazon too,
and
right?
Amazon, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Shukran sana. Anything you want to add before we wind up? Any comment?
I think the only thing I'd say is that the young people, especially those the Gen Z or those slightly younger, it's the responsibility of those of us who are older to teach them more out of school. Our education system as it is now is teaching our kids zero. And I mean, the things we are doing in CBC are beyond the pale. It's ridiculous. So I think we need to show these kids, show them stuff online, buy them books, share the news with them, break it down for them. They can't all understand what's being said on TV, and help them join the dots. Help them join the dots. Like when he leaves the tap open, tell him, close the tap. The water bills are high because the Nature Conservancy has privatized Nairobi's water.
Yeah.
Tell them that.
Yes, tell them the truth.
Then what's Nature Conservancy? Now you tell him the rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell them the truth.
Tell them the truth.
Yeah.
And teach them, and we'll be in a better place. Yeah.
How can people find you?
I've got a YouTube channel which is just Mordecai Ogada. That's the name of the YouTube channel. I've got a blog which again is just www.ogada.co.ke. And I'm also on Twitter, X, M_Ogada. Yeah. And again, Facebook, just Mordecai Ogada.
Good. Yeah. I appreciate you. I don't take it for granted.
I also appreciate our conversations, because as we talk, I learn.
Yes.
As we talk, I learn.
One step at a time.
Yes.
One conversation.
Yes, one conversation at a time.
Yes.
There are things I know now that I didn't know last month or last year. Yeah.
You see, an opportunity. He said he learned. So we are learning.
We are learning.
And learning. And
relearning,
right?
Kabisa.
Shall we wind up?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, for being here with us. I know it's been over an hour plus, but then again, we all appreciate these conversations. It's been quite the year, and I've loved really hosting this show for you. I've loved the people we've brought on the platform. I've loved, the differences, the different opinions. I've really appreciated that too. And also, I love hearing from you on the comment section. Let me know what your take home has been, and also what other conversation would you like to see us tackle here on the platform. I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m. and I always say, if there's anything you can't say on the comment section, info@lnn.digital, that's where you can be able to find our team, and we will definitely reply to your email. So see you. Bye.